The Biden administration has begun telling Facebook what posts to censor on social media. They say this is to combat misinformation, mostly in relation to the pandemic. But practically, it means that the US government is spying on your Facebook posts, because otherwise, how would they know which ones to tell Facebook to take down? Take a look at this.
The big concern, though, I think, for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across the country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms.
Where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. First off, what exactly is misinformation? And secondly, is it a good idea to make the US government dictate what information is allowed and censored on social media? Welcome to the channel, guys. My name is Soran. So in a way, I think that these companies can do whatever they want. They're free companies and they have the right to censor people off of their social platforms if they think that's a good business model. But the real problem begins when the government is actively working with these social media giants to censor people or posts from people, disinformation that they're calling it, off of these social media platforms, because then at least indirectly it's the government intervening on your ability to freely express yourself. So the big question of today's video is if you think it's all right for government to work with social media companies to censor misinformation, even if it is actually misinformation. And by the way, notice how they went away from using the term disinformation to now using misinformation instead. Misinformation obviously is a lot broader than disinformation, where disinformation is when you try to actively mislead someone. Like you're saying something that you know is false information and you're trying to mislead them. While misinformation could be a lot of things, it's just you saying things that turns out not to be completely accurate. The problem is that we are all guilty of misinformation at some point. Like even if you follow science, science changes over time. And so misinformation becomes very subjective. A great example of this is what was once considered a conspiracy theory that COVID had come from a lab in Wuhan in China is now considered mainstream. Like that's now the most likely scenario. Had you said that just a few months ago, you could have been banned off of social media, and some people were, and now it looks like those people were correct. So are they going to be given back their social media accounts? I wouldn't be so sure. If we give this power over to government to work with social media to censor you, then what's to stop them from actually doing it on another issue than just health issues like political issues? I'm sure you remember the New York Post getting shut down because they were reporting on Hunter Biden's laptop. Social media companies like Twitter censored one of the biggest papers in the US, and for what reason exactly? So far, no one has said that the content of the article in the New York Post was false. They just kind of didn't like it, so they censored it from you, literally. By the way, along with the White House press secretary at the time. You see what I mean? That it's really bad if these social media companies can just slap a title of misinformation on a product and then just make it go away completely. Like they censored the White House press secretary and this whole case, not even citing anything false within the articles. They just said that it was misinformation. So Google was one of the first companies to censor this so-called lab leak theory. You couldn't talk about it, or if you did, you got either censored or banned on social media companies. Well, now it turns out that Google has been funding some companies that's been funding the research in the Wuhan Institute in China. And that's the whole problem with the government beginning to work with these social media companies, because often they have their own priorities and their own reasons to protect certain things from getting out into the public. So here's the question: what's to stop them from censoring everything they disagree with? And who should we listen to? Like, who's the accepted official source of truth and information? One of them used to be and still is the WHO, but they themselves have been spreading misinformation as well. In the beginning of the pandemic days, they said that masks were ineffective and that you shouldn't wear them, but then they turned around and said that now they were very important to wear. So obviously the problem quickly becomes that if you censor everyone in contact with misinformation, you're going to end up with no one left in the very end. The internet is supposed to be this place where you can go online and then find information from all kinds of sources take it all in and then kind of make up your own mind, because you're an adult. You don't need anyone to censor information for you. To be fair to Facebook, they are trying to push back against the Biden administration, trying to make them work closer in terms of banning even more posts that they don't like or consider misinformation. Check out what Biden said recently.
What's your message to platforms like Facebook? They're killing people.
So Facebook released this comment saying that they are already deleting millions and millions of posts and censoring people who spread COVID misinformation. But it's obvious that the Biden administration is trying to come closer to Facebook by sending out more of these orders and making Facebook do more of their social media dirty work. The thing is that in many ways, these social media companies are way more powerful than whatever administration is in the White House. Congress in the US has proven that they can't do anything in terms of stopping these social media companies from censoring information when they call it misinformation. So it just looks to me that the White House is saying that if we can't beat you guys, we're just going to join you, which is exactly what's happening by joining powers. It is rare, though, to see the White House openly on TV calling for more cooperation with social medias so they can censor people. I mean, they did do it in the past, but they understood how bad it looked, so they tried at least to do it under the radar. Look, I don't think it's bad to censor certain things from social media, like crimes and so on, but just misinformation? The solution to false information has to be more information, because the approved information is still out there. It's not like having alternative ideas is going to erase whatever the government approved information is. As adults, we have a right to look at all of the information and make up our own minds. It just sounds like they prefer if they could have only the approved information be available. Check this out, guys. I was reading this article from Forbes about this whole issue, right? So it says, misinformation, the White House and Jen Psaki didn't actually call for censorship of social media companies. So it talks about the whole debacle between a reporter and Jen Psaki, and then finally it goes into the important question, censorship or not. It says, the fact that the president took aim at a social media platform has been widely called out by many on social media platforms, suggesting it was censorship, while others even saw it as a First Amendment violation in the US. However, that isn't accurate. That's how it ends. That's some hard-hitting news reporting right there. And by the way, isn't that also misinformation? I guess not when you are friendly to the current administration. Look, we were all hit by this pandemic in some ways, so it's easy to understand why some people would let the government come in and kind of remove the harmful disinformation that could be floating around, and that, by the way, that I'm sure is floating around. It's easy to understand why people would be in that mindset. But I think we just had a couple of years of at least conservatives feeling like they've been banned on a wide array of issues, not just COVID related, but on politics, on different cultural issues, and so on. Issues, by the way, just like science, where fair-minded people can disagree. But the point is, if you let them censor information right now because you disagree with the information, then sooner or later it's going to happen to you as well, and they're going to come to you and say, no, now we're going to ban you instead. You have a wrong opinion. You have something that's misleading or misinformation, so now we're going to ban you instead as well. Historically, governments have taken away freedoms when people fear things. But do you think that even if the fear would go away, do you still think that the government, having been able to take away this or that freedom, that they would stop there forever? I don't buy that at all. The government working with social media companies to erase opinions and information they don't agree with is not a step in the right direction. The only way to have a constructive, open debate is for everyone to have all of the information and then make up your mind and debate them with people. But it just looks like more and more that's exactly what the ruling class is afraid of. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know what you think about all of this in the comment section. See you guys in the next one.